The transfer portal has been the topic of conversation for I don't know how many months now. Even though the portal's closed, it's still a topic of conversation in terms of guys deciding on, the May 1 deadline and all that. It's still a topic. And it was most visible, the transfer portal was at least, when talking about quarterbacks. Because a lot of guys jumped into the portal and found a new home this past offseason. A lot of big names, too. Names that you and I recognize, like Quinn Ewers, guys like Thompson, who started at programs like Texas a year ago. A lot of guys that are going to make a big impact, a big splash on their football team this coming year, obviously. And so we gave you our top transfer portal quarterbacks in terms of guys that are already proven, that are arriving to a new program. And I said in that video, I said, hey, this is not my prediction by any stretch of the imagination. This is what we have right now on paper, what we know about these guys. This is my ranking system. So naturally, the next step is, okay, well, how are they going to finish? How are they going to fare in 2022? And so we're going to take a look at that today. Starting off with Quinn Ewers, he's someone that obviously has a lot of excitement around him, just based off of all the things he did at the high school level, all the hype he came into Ohio State with. You know the drill, transferred from Ohio State back to the home state of Texas, says, I want to be a Longhorn, and has all the juice in the world around him. So if we're grading these guys on a 1 through 10 scale, 1 being, dude gets benched by game 1 or game 2, game 10 wins the Heisman, I think Quinn Ewers is an 8. And in part, I think he's an 8 because of all the things he has around him and the quarterback-friendly system that Steve Sarkisian has in place. I mean, Steve Sarkisian's a quarterback whisperer. 1, that's how he handles quarterbacks, but 2, it's because of the quarterback, like I just said, friendly system that he has these guys playing in. Tons of weapons for Quinn Ewers. I mean, Isaiah Neyor, Bijan Robinson, Xavier Worthy, Jaleel Billingsley. We could go on and on. He's got a lot of guys to throw the rock to. But the RPO system is a run-to-throw offense. Meaning, if that linebacker wants to just sit there, we're content to hand the ball off. And it is a phenomenal luxury as a quarterback to be able to hand the ball to someone like Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson's tired? Okay, Roschon Johnson, you're in the game. We'll hand it to him. So the bottleneck, if you will, or the variable I'm watching with Quinn Ewers is, can these transfers gel? And we've talked about it before. Can these transfers all get on the same page? Because credit to Texas, they went and got a lot of phenomenal players in the portal, like I just talked about. But if you're not on the same page, if you're not synced up, then we have issues. We can't even get the play started. So from a talent perspective, I don't have a ton of question marks about Quinn Ewers from what we've seen on paper, what we've seen at the high school level, like I already talked about, but he hasn't played any meaningful snaps of college football yet. So yes, there's still a question mark of how up to speed is he and how up to speed are the other transfers with where they want to be come Alabama. That's also another factor in this. They play Alabama week 2. How much does that rock his boat? How much does he answer the call to action in having to play against, arguably, I don't even know if it's that much of an argument right now, the best team in the country, his second start. So he's yet to be named the starter. I don't think it's wildly irresponsible to assume he will be the starter in Austin. But for Quinn Ewers, I would put him at an 8 out of 10 in terms of what he'll do this coming year. Again, because of the guys around him, because of the system he's in, and because of the bet we're sort of making on his talent. Now, that could go way higher. Like, in terms of the ceiling for Quinn Ewers, dude could step in and be a 9.5. I mean, there is no ceiling on Quinn Ewers. I want to make that very clear. We have him at an 8 because of what we're yet to see just yet in terms of on-the-field production in a college football game and because of what he has around him. So Quinn Ewers is an 8 in our book in terms of transfer portal quarterback predicted success. Moving right along, Dillon Gabriel, I have as a 9 out of 10. And if you watch this channel, if you watch this show, you know why I feel that way. Dillon Gabriel is reunited with his former offensive coordinator, Jeff Lebby. And it would be one thing if him and Jeff Lebby had worked together and Dillon Gabriel was a backup and maybe they got some time in there when Dillon Gabriel started 2 games at the end of the year or something to that effect. But Dillon Gabriel was the starter for Jeff Lebby and balled out as a freshman, was top 10 in the country in terms of yards. So they've worked together and they've done really good things together. And with 2 guys coming to a new place together, having the quarterback and offensive coordinator relationship already wired down is going to make for really quick success. because he already knows what he likes. He already knows what to call. He already knows how to play to his strengths and tailor the offense to him, which more often than not is half the battle when it comes to this quarterback and offensive coordinator development. Now, how quickly do they get everybody else on the same page, similar to Quinn Ewers? I think it's another topic, but a lot of these guys have already been at Oklahoma. Marvin Mims has proven he can ball. Theo Weiss has proven in flashes he can ball. So he's got guys to throw to, but how quickly do they get on the same page with Dillon Gabriel? Now, I have him higher because I think the offensive coordinator to quarterback relationship is a lot more difficult to get meshed than the quarterback to receiver relationship. Quarterback and wide receiver synchronization, in my humble opinion, is fairly straightforward. Hey, let's go throw after practice. Hey, let's go watch film. If you will just commit to that discipline, I mean, the script writes itself. The Wi-Fi will sync up with the Bluetooth, or however you want to phrase it. It's not a super complex relationship to get down. It's just physical, more so than anything that would require the offensive coordinator and quarterback relationship. That's a little bit more mental and football IQ and being on the same page there. Hey, if I know you're breaking at 5 yards and you like to break a half step early because of the way that DB is playing you, and we know that because we've watched film and we've run it together in practice, then we're good. I can hit you in stride, brother. We're good. Don't even worry about it. So for Dillon Gabriel, I think that they're going to commit to that process, to getting synced up, and that's why I feel so confident in him. He's proven it multiple times. Dude can play. Now, it's a jump to the Power 5 level. If you want to have that conversation, we can. But really, I think you're just nitpicking. Jeff Lebby, Dillon Gabriel are set up to do big things in Norman in a conference where there's a lot of transition. We just talked about it with Quinn Ewers. A lot of transition at Texas, a lot of transition within the Big 12 itself at Iowa State, at Baylor. There's a lot of things going on where people are having to replace production as you do every single year in college football. But I think more so in the Big 12, there is an open throne. For Oklahoma to hit the ground running, it could mean big things for Dillon Gabriel. Something to watch for. Moving right along, Spencer Rattler transferred from Oklahoma to South Carolina. And this is a fascinating one to break down. Because when you talk about talent and you talk about ability, I mean, there's nothing to be desired with Spencer Rattler. You don't question if he can make any throws. You don't question if he has the athleticism to escape or the presence of mind to move in the pocket. Those aren't things that I'm worried about with Spencer Rattler. What I am worried about is decision-making. And so for Spencer Rattler, out of 10, I have him at a 7.5. This is not his ceiling, obviously. He could very much so outperform that number, but I'm worried about what he's done in recent history. Now, he's won a lot of games. Don't get it twisted. I mean, they won a lot with him at the starting quarterback position at Oklahoma. But as the old saying goes, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And it's sort of doom and gloom to say this, but Spencer Rattler has proven multiple times who he is as a quarterback. Tons of ability, tons of talent, likes to gamble with the football. I mean, there's not much more to say. He puts the ball in harm's way. And with how brutal this schedule is, I mean, South Carolina, let's just go through it here. They play Arkansas, they play Georgia, they play A&M, they play Florida, they play Clemson. Show me the easy defense in that stretch, folks. I mean, they have Arkansas and Georgia 2 of the first 3 weeks. So I'm worried about his confidence taking a hit. Now, the reason why I have him at a 7.5 is because that talent level is so high to where if South Carolina manages him correctly, I think there is a lot of cause for optimism. But they need to take some things off his plate to make sure that he's, or how do I say this? They need to make sure he has enough leash to where, hey, Spencer, you got 2 reads here, brother. If it's not there, throw it away. I don't want you ad-libbing. I don't want you going deep and off the back foot if you feel pressure and think you might have something on the outside. No, here's what you got in front of you. Stick to this, and you'll be in good shape. So, it goes without saying, he has a really high ceiling. But like I said, decision-making paired with that schedule, I have some reservations. 7.5 is still real good. Don't get it twisted. 7.5 is a really strong number to have going into 2022 for Spencer Rattler in terms of what I expect from him. I just need to see more. And the fact that we haven't seen more from him recently gives me some pause. So that's Spencer Rattler. Casey Thompson, a guy that we just talked about a few moments ago with Nebraska's expectations. You know how I feel about him. This offense is going to be built to throw the football, okay? Coach Whipple, that's pretty much what he's doing here. He's saying, hey, throw it to these guys, get it to them in space, and we're going to run the football off of that. So however we do throwing the rock, we're going to run it after that. And he's going to give him a clear picture. He's going to make sure he has a lot of levels concepts in there for him to where he's looking at one spot, reading one defender, simplifies everything. He's not having to get to 2 to 3, back to 1. I mean, he's not having to just jump all over the field here with his eyes. So I think it's going to make his processing really efficient. And just based off of what they did in Nebraska a year ago, I'm thinking, okay, if you just insert a capable quarterback there, they got playmakers. They got some guys in the portal as well. Trey Palmer from LSU. There's been a lot of excitement around him. I think Casey Thompson is going to do really well at Nebraska, to put it plainly. Now, I think the objections some people will have is, well, hey, you got Quinn Ewers at 8. You got Casey Thompson at 8.5. Quinn Ewers is, and again, this is coming from a Texas fan's perspective, how we're having this conversation. They're saying Quinn Ewers is much more talented than Casey Thompson. If Casey Thompson was so talented, he would have stayed and tried to beat out Quinn Ewers. Okay, I understand that. And that may be true. In fact, I wouldn't even push back and say that I don't think Quinn Ewers is less talented than Casey Thompson. He probably is. However, we've seen Casey Thompson do it in a college football game on multiple occasions. 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions a season ago. We've seen him throw the ball deep and be able to complete those kind of passes. We've seen his consistency. What we haven't seen is that from Quinn Ewers. So that's why I have him at 8, Nebraska, Casey Thompson at 8.5. So a lot to unpack there with that conversation, but ultimately, to put it bluntly, quarterback-friendly system. They're going to throw the ball. The schedule also isn't brutal for Nebraska. No Ohio State. Non-conference is fairly manageable. They play Oklahoma, which will be a tough one, but outside of that, it's not too brutal. It's not too gruesome. They don't play Michigan until November. So there's a lot of things to where Casey Thompson can get his feet under him, I think, sooner rather than later. I'm excited to see this kid. I really am excited for Casey Thompson. I think he could be one of the most impactful, if not the most impactful transfer in all of college football. Now, we can't do a transfer portal quarterback segment without talking about Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, another quarterback that transferred from Oklahoma to USC, and I think he's going to put up ridiculous numbers. I mean, he will have a video game-like kind of season statistically at USC. Now, if you've watched this program, you know I have my reservations about USC's defense and what they're going to be able to do in terms of getting themselves over the hump to win the Pac-12 and get to the college football playoff. But in terms of just what Caleb Williams is going to do, I think you got to put him at a 9 out of 10 heading into 2022. Because with all the firepower they have on this offense, I mean, show me the reservation you would have about Caleb Williams going to New York City. Maybe your answer there is USC's not going to win enough games, and I would buy that. But the firepower they have on this offense, look across the board at these receivers. Brendan Rice from Colorado, Mario Williams from Oklahoma, Jordan Addison, the best receiver in the country a year ago, coming from Pitt, Travis Dye, 1,000-yard rusher in the Pac-12. They have so many playmakers on this offense to where Caleb Williams' job is real easy. Get the ball to those dudes. Now, similar to Spencer Rattler, if Caleb Williams can't take that next step as a quarterback and be a good decision maker, well, then it's all for naught. I'm not buying that. I think his second year under Lincoln Riley is going to be really strong, and I think let's just call it what it is, lesser competition in the Pac-12 is going to make for big-time numbers for him. So that's Caleb Williams for you. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. USC is its own beast. We'll talk about that more, I guess, in October when we have some of this dust settled and we have more intel on them. But those are the transfer portal quarterbacks. To recap it for you, Quinn Ewers, he's an 8 out of 10 in my book. Dillon Gabriel's a 9. Spencer Rattler, a 7.5 with a really high ceiling. Don't get too upset about that. Casey Thompson, an 8.5. And Caleb Williams is a 9 heading into 2022. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.